here we go. This is the live stream of the SLS Artimes-1 rocket. Right, Matt? I suck at math. Wow, it's beautiful.
Fire move 1
isn't
is
it?
completely silent as they listen to the next call.
GLS is go for core stage tank pressurization.
It's really
Core
beautiful.
stage tank is now pressurizing to flight levels. The replenish valve to the
sniffles.
liquid hydrogen tank now closing. The liquid oxygen tank will come a little later. Now we're arming the Orion ascent pyros and transfer to internal power. The launch abort system, or LAS jettison motor, is now armed. On this flight, the abort motor is inactive because there is no crew on board. Up next is the flight termination system, or FTS, which gives the Space Force the ability to destruct the rocket if it goes in the wrong direction. Let's listen in for that.
My gosh, my 3D like nose is so messy.
GLS is go for FTS arm.
The flight termination system is now armed. Coming up at 4 minutes and 40 seconds, a big moment. This is where the RS-25 engines and their bleed go to high flow. It's been a little tricky to dial in.
Oh, guys, here we go.
GLS is go for LH2 high flow bleed check.
Good word, we've passed that.
Offered.
The cryo team got the LH2 engine bleed pressure loop dialed in. They are now at the right temperature for launch. Countdown continues. T-minus 4 minutes, 15 seconds. Up next, GLS fires up the KPUs.
Right.
Those are high-speed turbines which provide pressure to hydraulic pumps that steer the RS-25s. Stands for Core Stage Auxiliary Power Unit Start.
We've been waiting for this for what, over 2 years? Now finally, gonna see it launch.
Engines gimbal at the bottom of the core stage.
I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna be speechless.
At T-minus 3 minutes and 10 seconds, you will hear the go for purge sequence 4. That's a helium purge of the 4 core stage engines downstream of the propellant valve, getting the air and moisture out.
GLS is go for purge sequence 4.
Here we go.
And in just a few seconds, GLS will close the core stage LOX vent for liquid oxygen. The white vapor cloud caused
3
from the
minutes
super
left to
cold
go.
air will disappear. You see it coming out there now.
And this is the official message.
And there it goes, it's closed. LOX vent closed, pressure rising in the core stage LOX tank to flight levels.
This is really nice.
Coming up in 15 seconds, look for that thrust vector control actuator test. Engines with gimbal.
This is amazing. Look at my bridge.
And there they go. The 4 core stage RS-25 engines gimbaling
Here
around,
we go.
testing the ability to steer the rocket into space.
I'm gonna call my friend. Too good as enough.
They will operate at 109% performance. Each RS-25
This is
throwing
so
down a $500,000
This is
pounds
history.
of thrust. All 4, 2
We
million
assured your
pounds.
space
All
expert.
together with the
This
boosters,
is the most powerful
8.8
rocket as of
billion
right
pounds
now.
of thrust.
It's gonna be
GLS is go
launched.
for upper stage to internal power.
Now the upper
Go to
stage has
election
gone
right
to
now.
internal power.
And NASA's about to launch the most
So
powerful
power is
rocket in the
removed
world.
from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS,
I sent it to
and
the
it's
group
been
chat.
switched to
Check it out,
battery
check it
power.
out.
The same milestone is coming up for the core stage
Right.
at T-minus 1 minute and 30
Oh my
seconds.
gosh. We've been waiting for this for like what, how long?
GLS is go for core stage to internal power.
So beautiful.
The rocket's core stage, which houses the 3 flight computers, is now on battery power. So there is no more hold time available because there's no more margin on the batteries. So if we have a hold, we'd have to recycle back to T-minus 10 minutes and recharge those batteries. The count continues. A note now, shortly after liftoff.
1 minute.
Shortly after liftoff, Mission Control Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague, Leah Cheshire, will take over commentary. T-minus 50 seconds and counting. Coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, the GLS will hand off control to the ALS. This is the autonomous launch sequencer. On board the rocket, it will take over command and control of the rocket. But the ALS will check, make sure there's no holds coming from the ground up until T-minus 2
GLS
seconds.
is go for ALS.
And we are go for ALS. The Space Launch System is now counting down to liftoff of Orion on its maiden voyage to the moon.
It's happening, it's happening.
Launch team can no longer recycle the count. Sound suppressor water now flowing
15.
under the ML. And here we go.
10.
Hydrogen burn-off igniters initiated.
Here we go.
7, 6, 5. Core stage engine start.
Yo.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis-1.
Enjoy
We
the rocket.
rise together back to the moon and beyond.
So beautiful.
All 4 RS-25 engines on the core stage and 2 solid rocket boosters now propelling the vehicle at 128 miles per hour.
Listen to us.
Hearing good control on the roll from teams in Mission Control Houston. All good calls so far. Now 30 seconds into the flight of Artemis-1. First milestone will be for the vehicle to pass through max Q at about 1 minute and 9 seconds into launch. This is the greatest period of atmospheric force on the rocket.
Wow. Just enjoy the roar of that rocket.
Now traveling 607 miles per hour. You're looking at 8.8 million pounds of maximum thrust. Quiet here in the loops in Mission Control. The 4 core stage engines are throttling down ahead of passing through max Q.
Where's the camera? We need a camera. Looks like a freaking meteor. Wow.
Now 1 minute, 21 seconds into the flight, traveling at 1,420 miles per hour. The 4 core stage engines are back at maximum thrust. The next major milestone will be for the solid rocket boosters to cut off and jettison at about 2 minutes and 11 seconds into the flight, so about 30 seconds from now. Again, quiet here in Mission Control Houston as teams continue monitoring the flight of Artemis-1.
That's on me.
We're now 16 miles downrange from the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, traveling over 2,800 miles per hour.
I'm left in awe.
Standing by for solid rocket booster jettison and shortly thereafter. Confirmation that the solid rocket boosters have separated these 177-foot boosters.
Wow.
Now the core stage continues to power the flight of Orion, all 4 RS-25 engines firing, traveling over 3,400 miles per hour, 46 miles downrange.
Wow. Look at those solid rocket boosters.
2 minutes and 36 seconds into the flight. Hearing nominal calls here in Mission Control Houston. We've still got 4 good engines on the core stage. Next up, we'll be looking for the service module fairing to separate. This is 3 15 by 15 foot fairing panels, providing structural support, protecting the service module. Those will separate at about 3 minutes and 11 seconds into flight, and very shortly thereafter will be followed by the launch abort system separation.
There should be onboard cameras. There should be onboard cameras.
Just over 3 minutes into the flight of Artemis-1, now traveling over 4,060 miles per hour, 83 miles downrange. We just had confirmation that the service module fairing has separated.
There we go. There we go.
And that the launch abort system pyros have fired, separating those from Orion as well. For future crew members,
Yo, is this an alien attack?
We just heard the call for 3-engine press, meaning if SLS were to lose an engine at this point in the mission, we could still achieve a nominal mission. We would just have an extended main engine cutoff time. However, we still have 4 good engines, all at maximum thrust right now, powering the first flight of Artemis at 5,200 miles per hour, 148 miles downrange. We're 4 minutes and 16 seconds into the flight of Artemis-1. So far, we've had a clean ascent. We saw those solid rocket boosters jettison about 2 minutes and 11 seconds after liftoff. Shortly after, we had the service module panels fairings separate, as well as the launch abort system. The launch abort system was inert for this flight, except to perform this separation. Those 4 core stage engines will continue to fire and power the flight of Artemis-1, now traveling over 6,800 miles per hour, 229 miles downrange. Booster flight controller reports that the engines are looking good. Our core stage main engine cutoff time is about 8 minutes and 3 seconds. We are now 5 minutes and 11 seconds into the flight, 7,656 miles per hour.
Wow. Guys, this is just...
Again, 4 good core stage engines.
Oh, guys. Here's what I can say. Amazing. This... I'm speechless. This is just... beautiful. This leaves me in awe. The rocket's actually in progress and work.
8,800 miles per hour, 345 miles downrange from the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center. Again, we are anticipating core stage main engine cutoff at about 8 minutes and 3 seconds. And about 10 seconds later, we'll see core stage separation, at which point Orion and the interim cryogenic propulsion stage will be flying free. Now traveling over 10,000 miles per hour, 6 minutes and 15 seconds into the flight of Artemis-1, 427 miles down.
Yeah.
About a minute and a half now until that core stage main engine cutoff time. Our 4 core stage engines continue to fire maximum thrust. Coming up on 7 minutes since launch today, now traveling over 12,800 miles per hour, 563 miles downrange. Again, still quiet here in Mission Control, Houston.
This is awesome, guys. I mean, sure, it sucks that we're left with an animation, but heading back to liftoff, let's go back a little bit.
10.
Hydrogen burn-off igniters initiated. 7, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis-1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Crispy. That is all I can say.
7 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight, traveling over 16,000 miles per hour.
Why don't they show the onboard?
Continuing to hear good calls here in Mission Control, Houston.
That's what I'm wondering.
We're standing by for core stage main engine cutoff.
Why can't they just show the onboard footage? It's actually good.
And we have confirmation of core stage main engine cutoff. Orion is now in Earth's orbit. The flight dynamics officer reports that we have a nominal main engine cutoff. And we just heard the call for core stage separation. That means Orion and the interim cryogenic propulsion stage are now flying free from the core stage of the Space Launch System. The next milestone will be solar array deploy approximately 18 minutes after liftoff. But before Orion stretches its wings, let's check back in with our friends at Kennedy Space Center and hear all about what it was like to hear the rocket roar off the launch pad. Megan and Kayla, I've got to hear all about it.
Well, if you're just joining us, welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center, where we just watched Artemis-1 launch, our first step towards our next adventure into deep space. As Leah said, I'm NASA's Megan Cruz, and this is NASA astronaut Kayla Barron. And I'm kind of still giddy and speechless. I don't even know how to explain how I'm feeling right now.
Exactly.
I feel the same way. This is the first launch that I've been able to
I
watch in
know.
person. And I've got to say, it was incredible. It took my breath away and I was tearing up. Just what an amazing accomplishment for this team, this international team, people who have been dedicating their careers to getting them.
So guys, that wraps up the stream of my launch reaction. It's really nice. I like it. It's I don't know what to say. It was nice. Really nice. No. It's simple stuff like this. Disregarding what happened back on Sunday in the Raiders game, this is really good. Now, the next step for humanity is for us to be there. Not just watch these rockets go up, not just watch us go in orbit, but our main goal now is to step foot on another body. Outside in outer space, obviously. Well, guys, I have to head to sleep now. Thank you guys for watching this reaction. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And have a good rest of your day or